Story 1. When I was a kid, everyone I know played a horrible prank on me. This is something I should probably be speaking about with a therapist, I know. I would, or I have been, but that's not really an option anymore. In fact, I couldn't tell you how many times I've told this story to various medical professionals. I'm 30 now, 20 years since it happened. I just want it to stop. I was a pretty average kid, I think. A little weird, but every kid is a little weird. I had an older sister, and we fought like two cats. I had a couple good friends, most of whom lived on my street or one street over, and we would meet after school and play until it was time for dinner. My life was fairly ideal. I played soccer, I think. Honestly, I have a lot of trouble remembering much of my childhood. But I remember that I got a Nintendo DS for my 10th birthday, and we had a big party in the backyard. Practically the whole neighborhood showed up. My birthday was just before school got out for the summer, so the air buzzed with excitement, and the evening was warm and felt more alive than other nights. The grown-ups started a fire in our little fire pit, and they sat around it and drank beer while we ran around. I was allowed to stay up past when I usually went to bed, and the other kids chased fireflies with me and roasted marshmallows until late. I remember going to bed happy, excited for summer, and exhausted. I fell asleep quickly, the peel and stick glow and the dark stars and moons shining on the ceiling above my head. Waking up the day after my birthday, something felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it. I hadn't had a nightmare. It wasn't that. I had slept better than I could really remember ever sleeping. It was late, I realized. That must be it. My mom usually woke me up around 8 if it wasn't a school day. She said it was a good habit to be in the routine of waking up early and starting your day on the right foot. By the light streaming in from my windows and the slightly muggy heat in the room, I figured it was already 10 a.m. or so. I smiled, sliding out of bed. It must have been one final birthday treat, letting me sleep in. She had let me sleep in the day before too, of course, although on my birthday itself I had wanted to get up as early as possible. "Mom?" I called into the hallway, poking my head out the door. No answer. I frowned. It was Saturday, so my dad was definitely already at work, but my mom wouldn't be. My sister wouldn't be home either. She had left the night before to spend the night at her friend's house. She was 13 now and allowed to have sleepovers, for which I was eternally jealous. I decided she must be out front in the garden. I put on a shirt and left my room. I smelled coffee, but there was none left in the pot. There were dishes in the sink too, with remnants of eggs stuck to a pan. It wasn't necessarily alarming, but it was strange. Even on days I slept in, there was always breakfast left over for me. I opened the front door, opening my mouth to call out to my mom, but I instantly froze. Halfway up our walkway was the mailman. He was on the ground, sprawled out awkwardly on the cement, fresh blood pooled beneath him in a gruesome splatter. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't move. His limbs were bent at horrible angles, his face pointed away from me. It almost looked like some omnipotent force, had lifted him into the air and then slammed him back down. The package he must have been delivering lay a few feet away, the cardboard dented and soaked in red. I didn't need any confirmation he was dead. It wasn't a question. I had never seen a dead person before. Sometimes my parents had watched horror movies, but that hardly counted. I backed into the house and closed the door behind me. My mind was racing too fast, and my heart felt like it might burst out of my chest. Everything in my body was reeling, so much so that all I could do was move slowly, in a faux sense of calm. "Mom?" I called out again, into the silent house, my voice breaking. "Mom, are you home? Something happened outside. Mom!" No one answered. The house felt way too quiet. All I could hear was the blood rushing in my ears. I had to brace myself against the wall as I made my way to my parents' room, because I was almost shaking too hard to hold myself up. "Mom?" I pushed open her bedroom door. It creaked, the sound almost deafening against the silence that blanketed the room. Our old gray cat Gumbo weaseled her way through the crack and slipped out into the hallway, brushing against my leg on her way. I saw a lump in the bed. For a moment I thought it was just pillows, but then I realized it couldn't have been. The bed was made, and all the pillows were accounted for, leaning against the headboard. "Mom, are you asleep?" It came out as a whisper, even though it wasn't like I had been trying not to wake her up. I wanted her awake, badly. I think I just somehow already knew. Something was hanging in the air, this heaviness, like the whole world had been blanketed in a thing that was empty and hot and dead. A desert popped into my head, a place that was so far away from everything and completely devoid of anything, devoid of life. When I pulled back the covers, the shock washed over me like an electric zap. Every one of my veins and bones and muscles felt 20 degrees hotter than they should have been. There was blood everywhere. I could barely see any section of the sheets that wasn't soaked in it. It looked like the cherry juice we sometimes made from the tree in our backyard, squashing the berries with our hands and laughing as the sticky syrup trickled down our wrists. Her eyes were open. Her mouth was open too, wide open, like she was about to scream. I gagged, stumbling backwards and almost falling down. My legs felt like they wouldn't work anymore. I was in a daze as I stumbled back to the kitchen. The eggs on the pan seemed like they were mocking me now. I knew my parents had told me what to do in an emergency, but all of that was gone from me now. This didn't feel like an emergency. It felt more like a horrible nightmare. I pinched myself on the arm, just in case. The neighbors, that was it. I was supposed to call my neighbors. The number was on a sticky note next to the phone. My fingers shook as I dialed the number. They picked up after 3 rings that felt like they took 1 year each. I heard a sort of crackling sound, like someone was moving the phone around. Hello? Hi. I cleared my throat, trying to get rid of the lump firmly lodged at the back of my tongue. This island, Jackson, from next door. I heard some sort of giggle, a choked one, like they were trying to hold it back, and then some hushed whispering. Hi, Jackson, the voice said. I assumed it was the mother, Mrs. Winston. Is everything all right? Can I help you with something? Something happened. My mom. Oh, honey, Mrs. Winston said, her tone gentle, but something about it felt deeply off. My stomach twisted. Why don't you head on over here? We'll figure out what's going on together. Okay. I remember hanging up before she said anything else. Something about her voice was unnerving me. Still, I didn't know where else to go. I slipped out the back door so I wouldn't have to walk past the mailman, Gumbo watching me go. I knocked on the neighbor's door. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I stepped into the flower beds, peering in through the windows. Someone was lying on the couch, their head tilted back like they were staring up at the ceiling. For a moment, that was what I thought was happening, until I saw that their chest was opened up like a patient on a surgery table. All guts and organs and blood, so much blood. It was Mr. Winston, in his sweater vest and brown dad shorts. Dead like the mailman, dead like my mom. Something came over me and I burst through their front door. It was unlocked, which I hadn't really expected, so I went tumbling into the room, landing on my stomach, my face slamming into the floor, face to face with Mrs. Wilson, who lay dead in front of the phone. Her eyes were open too. There was a fly on one of them, crawling across the white, pausing every few seconds to rub its hands together. I had started to cry. It was finally hitting me that this was real, not some dream, and I desperately wanted my mom. I scrambled to my feet, nearly throwing up, when I realized my face was covered in her blood. I swiped at it with my hands, trying to wipe it away as quickly as possible. Then, instinctively, I licked my lips. Horrified, I braced myself for the coppery taste of the blood on my tongue. But it never came. It was sweet. I hesitated, trembling incessantly, before cautiously raising one of my red fingers to my lips. Sweet. Memories flooded my mind, memories of baking with my grandmother, the sweet syrup we would sometimes pour into the mixing bowls. It was fucking corn syrup. I ran to my father's work, which was on the other side of town. By the time I got there, I was close to passing out and drenched in sweat. But it had made it a little easier to get here with the road completely devoid of cars. There were some, parked on the side of the road or every now and then in the middle of it, but none of them had people in them. Some of them had blood, thick and red and gooey blood. The nice receptionist that was always at the front desk, and always gave me candy when my dad brought me in, had her head against the computer. Her hair was matted with red liquid, as if someone had ripped out entire chunks of her scalp. Before I could think too hard about it, I wiped my finger across the side of her head and licked it. It was sweet too. I felt like my brain was going to break, like I was standing on the edge of something completely incomprehensible. I shook the woman. She flopped like a rag doll. I sobbed, shoving her, and she slumped to the ground, her head knocking against the tiles. "Wake up!" I screamed at her. "I know you're not dead." She didn't move an inch, just stared, unblinking, her mouth hanging half open. I ran into the room my dad usually worked in, scanning it for his workspace. I couldn't remember where it was, just that it was around halfway back and close to the wall. In every cubicle, someone was dead. Sometimes they looked halfway peaceful, as if they'd been caught by surprise, but most of them were eviscerated in one way or another. Entrails hanging out, bones showing, blood sprayed against the walls, even some with faces ripped clean off. It was like something unseeable had swept through the town on a rampage. But all of their blood was made of corn syrup. In a brave moment, I even touched one of the organs, something that looked like a strange, deflated balloon, and it jiggled, but more like plastic than a human body part. At one point, I swore I heard a giggle behind me. I whipped around, but no one was there. I found my dad at the water cooler, sitting against the wall, cone paper cup still gripped loosely in his hand. He stared straight ahead, blood leaking from his eyes, nose, and mouth, like he'd exploded from the inside. "Dad," I whispered, grabbing his shoulder. "This isn't funny. Please stop." There was a strange look on his face that I could just barely make out through the red. Almost like a smile. Like a smile someone would only make if they were trying very hard not to. I walked back home down the middle of the road, balancing on the yellow lines to have something to focus on, because I was fairly certain if I stopped walking, I wouldn't start again. When I got there, I climbed into bed and I closed my eyes. I didn't know what else to do. Eventually, after what must have been hours and hours of lying there, I drifted off into a restless sleep. I woke up to someone shaking my shoulder. I screamed, scrambling away from them, immediately wide awake and terrified. "Whoa." My mom backed away, smiling. "Sorry, buddy. I didn't mean to scare you." I was breathing hard. I looked her over, clutching my chest. She was completely fine. She looked it, at least. She stood there in a white blouse and blue jeans, her hair tied up like always, her eyes bright and happy. What day is it?" Her smile faded, and she frowned a little. It was then that I noticed the smell of bacon wafting in from the kitchen. "It's Sunday, bud, remember? 2 days after my birthday. So yesterday had been real." "What happened yesterday?" She placed the back of her hand on my forehead, tutting softly. "Did one of those neighborhood kids you play with get you sick, honey? Do you feel okay?" I dropped it, because I didn't know what to say. I convinced myself maybe I really was sick. Maybe it had been some kind of feverish hallucination. And I was so relieved to see her, I didn't want to think about any of it anymore. I went to eat breakfast, sitting at the table between my dad and my sister, and everything was normal. But when I left the house later that day, I saw it. On the walkway leading up to our house, there was something pink on the pavement. A faint pink stain, like something sweet and red and sticky had been recently scrubbed away. Like I said, it's been 30 years. I've been feeling like I had almost recovered from that incident. I had asked everyone I knew countless times about that day, but none of them seemed to have any idea what I was talking about. But still, I had almost let it go, and it had never happened again. Not until today. Today, when I walked into my therapist's office, it seemed strangely quiet. There was usually music playing, something soothing and soft, and there were people in the waiting room and at the front desk typing on a keyboard. But today, nothing. No one. Silence. I let myself into Dr. Sheldon's office, perplexed. Which is when I found her dead on the carpet, her blood sprayed across all the walls, even dripping from the ceiling. It was crazy, I know that, but I immediately tasted it. Sweet. I rolled her over, and her eyes were open, a strange smile on her face. This time I did something I didn't think to do as a kid. I checked her pulse. She's alive. I don't know what to do. I can't believe they're doing this to me again. Do they think this is funny? Story 2. I participated in a drug trial 3 months ago, and I need to tell someone what happened. Self-harm. I did a drug trial 3 months ago. I need to tell someone what happened. I keep thinking I should go to the news, or find a lawyer, or something. But the NDA I signed, pretty sure it's airtight. And anyway, who's gonna believe me? The researchers don't. Every time I call, I get the same line. All test subjects recovered normally within 72 hours of the neutralizing agent. But I know what I know. 6 years of pain. Ever since I blew out both knees playing college ball. The doctors gave it a name, severe bilateral patellofemoral pain syndrome with cartilage degeneration. What it meant was this. Every step felt like grinding glass. Every stare was a negotiation. Some nights I'd end up on the kitchen floor, heating pads on both knees, just rocking, crying, not even trying to stop. I tried everything. PT, cortisone, anti-inflammatories, opioids that made me sick and constipated and almost got me hooked. The bills already bankrupted me once. I was working a desk job that barely covered rent. Forget the doctor visits. Saw the ad for a clinical trial, $2,500 for a month-long study of some revolutionary long-acting analgesic. I called that same day. Neurovantage was in one of those glass buildings downtown, the kind with valet parking and fake plants that probably cost more than my rent. Waiting room had leather chairs, abstract art, magazines that weren't ancient. Dr. Sarah Chen looked mid-40s, maybe. Graying hair, sharp eyes. She talked like someone who didn't need you to trust her, because you already did. It's called NX47, she said, pushing a stack of papers across the desk. Synthetic compound. Blocks pain signals at the cellular level. 1 injection, 4 weeks of relief. I stopped reading. 4 weeks. No pain. I didn't care what the rest said. After injection into the gluteus maximus, the compound is slowly metabolized by the liver. Most subjects report complete pain relief within 6 hours and no adverse effects. Most subjects. I should have asked about the others. The shot was nothing. Nurse took me to a room, had me lie face down, gave me the injection. Felt like any other needle. Quick, forgettable. Dr. Chen told me to keep a daily journal documenting any effects, positive or negative, and to call immediately if I experienced anything concerning. I drove home expecting nothing to happen for hours, but somewhere on the freeway, I realized I'd been unconsciously shifting my weight in the driver's seat, trying to find a comfortable position for my knees. Then I noticed I wasn't doing it anymore. By the time I parked in my driveway, the constant low-level ache that had been my companion for 6 years was gone. That night, 8 hours straight, first time since college. Next morning, I started the journal. Day 1, the 15th of October. Woke up at 7:30, no alarm. Slept straight through, 8 hours. I haven't done that in years. Usually, I'm up 3-4 times a night. Every time I roll over, the knees flare up. Getting out of bed felt weird. I kept bracing for it, that grinding glass feeling. But it didn't come. I walked to the kitchen. Just walked. No limping. No favoring one side. No grabbing the wall. Made coffee. Stood there drinking it. Just stood there. I didn't realize how much I'd been shifting, leaning, adjusting, until I wasn't. Tried walking around the block. Made it halfway. My knees didn't hurt, but my legs felt weak, like I'd been in bed for months. I guess I'd been guarding my knees so long the rest of me forgot how to move. Weird thing at lunch, though. I bit my tongue. Not that hard, just one of those accidental bites. But it barely registered. No wince, no sharp jolt. Just distant. Maybe I'm so focused on the pain being gone that everything else feels muted. Dr. Chen called tonight. Asked how I was doing. I told her everything was perfect. She sounded pleased. Said to keep documenting everything. Even positive changes can be significant data points. I didn't ask what kind of changes she meant. Day 2, the 16th of October. Something happened last night. I'm still shaking. Got up around 3 to pee. Half asleep, still not used to sleeping through the night. Stumbled in the dark. Hit my pinky toe on the dresser. Jesus. It felt like someone crushed my whole foot with a hammer. I dropped. Couldn't scream. Just these awful choking sounds while I grabbed at it. Crawled to the light switch. Thought I'd see blood, bone, something torn open. But there was barely anything. Just a red dot. I sat on the bathroom floor staring at it. 20 minutes, maybe more. The pain faded, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. It felt like the worst injury I've ever had. From stubbing my toe. My knees are still perfect. No pain at all. But that toe thing won't leave me alone. It keeps looping in my head. Something's happening. I know it. Day 3, the 17th of October. Called in sick today. Couldn't focus after last night. Thought maybe some fresh air would help. It was nice out. Mid-70 seconds, light breeze. I sat on the back patio for 10 minutes. Then, my skin started burning. At first I thought I was imagining it. Maybe I was still shaken up. But it kept getting worse. It felt like I was under a heat lamp. It quickly moved from warm to scorching. Then it got worse. My arms, face, neck, every exposed part felt like it was pressed against a stove. I ran inside. The second I crossed the door, it stopped. I stood in the kitchen, breathing hard, trying to make sense of it. Then I realized. The Sunday normal sunlight felt like torture. I called Neurovantage around 3, got bounced around until someone picked up, said she was Dr. Chen's assistant. I told her what happened. Long pause. Have you experienced any other unusual sensations? Her voice was flat, careful, like she was reading something. I told her about the toe. Another pause. Mr. Patterson, these sound like normal adjustment responses. Please continue documenting everything and call us if symptoms worsen significantly. Normal adjustment? I can't go outside. The compound affects neural pathways in complex ways. Temporary hypersensitivity isn't unusual. She sounded like she'd said it before. I asked if other people had gone through this. She said she couldn't discuss other cases. Before hanging up, she reminded me about their emergency line, if absolutely necessary. My knees still feel perfect. No pain at all. Whatever this drug is doing, it's doing exactly what they said it would. But everything else feels off. Day 4, the 18th of October. I'm writing this at 2:47 a.m. because I can't sleep and I need to get this down while it's still fresh. Temperature dropped tonight. Must have hit the low 50 seconds because the heater kicked on around midnight. I was lying in bed when I heard the click of the thermostat, then the whoosh of air through the vents. The first breath of warm air hit my face and I thought I was going to die. It felt like opening an oven and sticking my head inside. The air from the vent, which is usually soft and warm, hit my skin like steam. I rolled off the bed and hit the floor, gasping. My whole body felt like it was being scalded. I crawled to the hallway and shut off the thermostat. Then I lay on the bathroom tiles until the burning stopped. Took 15 minutes before I could think straight again. I checked my skin in the mirror. Nothing. No redness, no marks, just normal skin. It felt like third-degree burns, but there was nothing. I'm sitting here now wearing 3 layers, with the windows cracked open. The house is freezing, but I can't risk turning the heat back on. This isn't normal adjustment. Something's going wrong in my nervous system. The drug was supposed to block pain, but it's like it's amplifying everything else. A breeze feels like sandpaper. My sheets felt like steel wool when I tried to get back in bed. I keep thinking about the assistant's voice, the way she paused when I described it, like she was checking something, comparing symptoms to a list. I'm gonna call the emergency line. I can't keep doing this. Day 5, the 19th of October. I'm back home. Called Neurovantage at 4 inches the morning. Got transferred 3 times before someone could schedule an emergency appointment. Dr. Chen was unavailable. They said Dr. Martinez could see me at 10. I was driving downtown when the hunger hit. Started as normal stomach rumbling. Within minutes, it felt like my insides were being shredded. I pulled into a gas station, doubled over the steering wheel, gasping, thought maybe something ruptured. I stumbled into the store and grabbed the first thing I saw, box of powdered donuts, tore it open, and started eating right there in the aisle. Clerk stared at me. I didn't care. I ate 4, fast, shoving them in until the pain stopped. He asked if I was okay. I mumbled something about low blood sugar and bought the rest of the box. Dr. Martinez was younger than Chen, nervous, kept asking about my pain tolerance baseline, checked a tablet while I talked. When I told him about the heater incident, he nodded like he'd heard it before. "We can administer a neutralizing compound," he said. "It should counteract the NX-47 within 24 hours. The needle looked normal, standard vaccine type. When it went in, I screamed. It felt like a red-hot poker. Pain shot up my arm and through my whole body. I started hyperventilating. Vision went black around the edges. Next thing I knew, I was on the floor. Martinez was kneeling beside me, asking if I could hear him. "The effects appear to be intensifying," he said to someone else in the room. "We should document the timeline more carefully." I wanted to ask what he meant by that. Couldn't speak, just focused on breathing. It's been 6 hours since the shot. Still hypersensitive. The tags in my shirt feel like razor blades. My neighbor's dog barking makes my skin crawl. Please let this work. I can't live like this. Equals day 6, the 20th of October. The shot didn't work, or if it did, it's taking its sweet time about it. Everything is backwards now. Everything. Made hot chocolate this morning. First sip tasted like poison, like licking a battery. Spit it out and dropped the mug. The mug hit my hand and broke on the floor. Should have hurt. It felt incredible. A wave of pure bliss shot up my arm. Better than any painkiller I've ever taken. Had to grab the counter to keep from falling over. The bruise is getting darker, and it feels amazing every time I touch it. I can't eat. Everything tastes like ash. Water tastes like metal. But pain, oh God, pain feels like heaven. I have scratches on my arms. Don't remember making them. 3 lines on each side. They feel good. I keep catching myself trying to make more. Had to leave the kitchen because I kept staring at the broken pieces of the mug. This is sick. I know it's sick, but I can't stop thinking about it. Food is poison. Pain is pleasure. What did they do to me? Went to Neurovantage. Couldn't wait. It's the weekend, and the building was locked, but I saw movement in the windows upstairs. Banged on the door until security came down. "I need Dr. Chen. Now." She came down 20 minutes later. Tired eyes. Overworked. She wasn't surprised. She knew. "Mr. Patterson, how are you feeling? Fix this, please. Whatever you did to me, fix it." She told me to follow her upstairs. The elevator was too bright, the humming too loud. Everything was too much, but I needed answers. Her office looked different. The abstract art on the walls seemed to move when I wasn't looking straight at it. She sat behind her desk and opened a file. Thicker than I remembered. "The occasional hypersensitivity phase typically lasts only 2 to 6 hours, she said, her eyes focused on the files. "Then the neural pathways begin to reorganize." "What does that mean?" "NX-47 doesn't just block pain signals, Mr. Patterson. It alters how your nervous system processes sensory input. The initial effect is complete analgesia for the targeted pain source. But the compound continues working, remapping your entire pain response system. You knew this would happen. The inversion is temporary. In most cases, your system should return to baseline within 2 to 3 days." She closed the file. "Some subjects experience profound neurological changes. The compound appears to reverse the polarity of pain and pleasure receptors in approximately 2% of test subjects. This should only last a few days. You should be able to manage." "Should? Manage? I can't eat food. I can't go outside. I can't touch anything without wanting to scream or hurt myself." The cravings for self-harm are concerning, but they typically diminish as the neutralizing compound works through the system. "You're talking about me like I'm a lab rat." She looked up. Mr. Patterson, you signed a comprehensive consent form acknowledging the experimental nature of NX-47. All potential side effects were disclosed. Potential side effects? You buried this in 40 pages of medical jargon. The compensation was commensurate with the risk level. I wanted to hit something. The urge was so strong I had to grip the arms of the chair. How many people have you done this to? NX-47 has shown remarkable success in eliminating chronic pain conditions. The preliminary trials have been very promising. How many, Dr. Chen? Patient confidentiality prevents me from discussing specific numbers. But there are others. Yes, there are others. What if I report this? What if I go to the FDA? Mr. Patterson, you voluntarily enrolled in an FDA-approved clinical trial. All procedures were conducted according to federal guidelines. Your signature is on every consent document. But you didn't tell me this would happen. We informed you that NX-47 was an experimental compound with unknown long-term effects. The neurological remapping was listed as a possible outcome in Section 12 of the consent documentation. I tried to remember Section 12. Tried to remember reading any of it carefully. But I'd been desperate. All I saw was the promise of 4 weeks without knee pain. She stood up. Mr. Patterson, I understand you're distressed, but the compound has accomplished exactly what you hoped it would. Your chronic pain is gone. The side effects are manageable with proper support. The neutralizing agent will completely stop the side effects within the next few days, and unfortunately, the pain will return as well. I was escorted out, dejected, tired. Day 8, the 22nd of October. Something's happening to my perception. Colors look more intense, but also distorted. The red numbers on my alarm clock look like they're bleeding. The green light on the coffee maker pulses like a heartbeat. Sounds are unbearable. My neighbor's leaf blower sounds like a hurricane. The refrigerator hum makes my teeth ache. The mirror is the worst part. I look the same, but something's off. Like I'm seeing myself from a slight angle, even when I'm standing straight. My eyes look darker, tired, different. I called NeuroVantage to ask about visual disturbances. Same assistant answered. Put me on hold for 5 minutes, came back and said perceptual changes are within normal parameters for NX-47 subjects. Normal parameters. Everything is normal parameters with them. The scratches and bruises are healing. I miss them. I miss how they felt. I keep thinking about making new ones. That's not normal. That can't be normal parameters. Day 9, the 23rd of October. This morning I woke up and my nerve endings were growing outside my skin. I could see them, hair-thin silver wires coming out of every inch of me, spreading across the sheets like spider webs. They pulsed with each heartbeat. I could watch signals traveling through them, little flashes of light moving along the strands. The wires were connecting to everything. The lamp, the alarm clock, the heating vent. Every time something made noise or changed temperature, I felt it through the wires. When the furnace kicked on, pleasure flooded my system. When a car drove past, the vibrations came up through the floor and into the network. Each pulse felt better than anything I've ever known. I touched one. It was like touching my own brain. I felt the electricity of my nervous system, raw and unfiltered. The euphoria was so intense I blacked out. When I came to, I was on the floor next to the bed, blood on my hands. The wires were still there, still connected to everything, but some were broken. The broken ends sparked. Each spark sent waves of ecstasy through me. I crawled to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. The wires were everywhere. Face, scalp, arms. They moved when I breathed. In the reflection, I saw them spreading behind me, a silver web linking me to every surface. I knew it couldn't be real. Nerve endings don't grow outside the body. But I could feel every wire. I could trace their paths. When I brushed against the doorframe, pleasure shot through the wires and dropped me to my knees. I called 911. The paramedics couldn't see the wires. They walked through them. Every time they touched one, I screamed. One kept saying, "Sir, there's nothing there," while the other prepared a sedative. But I could feel his radio. I could feel the engine of the ambulance. I could feel everything. They sedated me. The needle went in and I watched the drug move through one of the wires, like dark fluid in a clear tube. It felt incredible. Better than the scratches, better than the broken mug. Better than anything. Now I'm in the psychiatric ward. The doctors can't see the wires, but they're still here. They've spread further. They reach across the room to the medical equipment, the other patients, the electrical systems in the walls. I can feel everything the hospital feels. Every heartbeat from the monitors. Every breath from the ventilators. Every pulse from every machine. The nurse came in to check my IV. She walked through a cluster of wires and I had to bite my tongue to keep from moaning. She made a note on my chart about continued visual hallucinations and left. They don't understand. The wires aren't hallucinations. They're adaptations. My nervous system is evolving. NX-47 is turning me into something that can experience everything as pleasure. They kept me here for 3 days, sedated and restrained. First night was the worst. The IV needle felt like molten metal, but good molten metal. The dry sheets of the hospital bed felt like sandpaper and sent waves of pleasure over my skin. The heart monitor beeped steadily. Each beep felt like a tiny shock in my ears. I started timing my breathing to match the beeps, trying to make it stronger. Second night, the wires started fading. I was sad to see them go. They ran every test: blood work, MRI, neurological exams. Dr. Rodriguez kept asking about drug use like I was some junkie. All the tests came back normal, perfect. My knee cartilage looked better than it had in years. Sometimes the mind can play tricks when we're under stress, he said. Dr. Chen visited on the second day. She brought a man in a suit, said NeuroVantage would cover all hospital costs as a courtesy. Didn't mention the $2,500 from the study. I didn't ask. Money feels pointless when you can't tell if you're losing your mind. By the third day, things started changing back. The IV needle just felt like a needle. Food tasted like food again, and the pain came back. Slow at first, then stronger. My knees feel like they're grinding again. I should be relieved. Instead, I feel like I lost something. Like waking up from the best dream I've ever had. They discharged me this afternoon. Bottle of ibuprofen, pamphlet about stress management. Dr. Rodriguez shook my hand and wished me luck with my adjustment period. Got home and found 3 lawyers sitting in my driveway. Black sedan, tinted windows, waiting by the front door. One was the same suit from the hospital. He had a briefcase full of papers. Mr. Patterson, we need to discuss your recent medical expenses. The hospital bill was $47,000. They said they'd pay it all, but only if I signed their agreement. Liability waiver, non-disclosure, nothing unusual. I started reading the fine print. My hands were shaking from rage. The paper said I'd never talk about what happened, never seek more medical care related to the trial, never contact other test subjects. If I broke any of it, I'd owe them the full hospital cost plus damages. What if I don't sign? The lawyer smiled. Then you're responsible for your own medical expenses and their consequences. $47,000. I don't have $47,000. I signed. My knees are killing me tonight. Back to the old pain like the last few days never happened. I should be grateful. But I keep thinking about the silver wires, the way they pulsed, the way they connected me to everything. What if I wasn't hallucinating? What if they know I wasn't? What if I could reach out and feel them again? I'm calling NeuroVantage tomorrow.